The Mangy Marauders are a nomadic tribe of greenskin hunters and mercenaries that has gained infamy throughout the Badlands and beyond. They raid ceaselessly, covering vast distances with their mobs of mounted warriors and slavering beasts, resembling a ramshackle caravan of cavalry and war wagons. Malicious, backstabbing goblins riding voracious giant wolves scout ahead of the army, probing for weak points in the enemy defences, cackling as they encircle the isolated and prey on the vulnerable. Rickety, wolf-drawn chariots with cruel scythes carry posses of goblin skulkers and assassins. Rugged, battle-scarred orc warriors wield giant crude machetes and carry severed heads and skulls from their victims. They ride atop vicious war boars, thickly muscled beasts adorned with spikes and trophies, grunting and snorting in anticipation of destruction. On this day, the tribe has been drawn to a greater cause than the usual raise and plunder. There is rumour in the air that the great prophet himself, Wurzag Urazahubu, is gaining strength and amassing a mighty force that will fulfill the prophecy of Gork and Mork of an almighty and final Waaah! Hello and welcome to another battle report for Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition. Very pleased to show off my freshly painted Orcs and Goblin army today. It's still work in progress, as you can see. I need to normalise some of the basing and fix some of the details like hanging banners from the banner poles. But it's going to be a lot of fun to get into Orcs and Goblins. It's actually only my third game playing with them, so I'm still very much a novice, still trying to remember all the rules. I'll do a proper showcase soon of the whole army and sort of show you where I'm up to with all of the modelling, collecting and painting and so on. It's a very different experience for me because I'm used to playing Dwarves and Demons of Khorne, which are armies which altogether don't have a lot of randomness to them. I've got high leadership or unbreakable units in the case of the Demons. I'm re-rolling the artillery dice a lot with the Dwarves and not having a magic phase really reduces the sort of randomness and allows you sort of maximum control over your units. So playing Orcs and Goblins, where I've got things like Animosity and the miscast table and misfiring on war machines and things like that, it's going to be a lot of randomness and low leadership as well, so I'm going to have units fleeing here and there, and it's really a different way of playing Warhammer, so I'm keen to get involved. I've also got a lot of cavalry, as you can see, which I'm not used to. So really sort of excited to get into this army and learn how to play it. The army is led by a, as of yet, unnamed Savage Orc war boss, and he's being run with the Crown of Command, the Trickster's Helm, and a great weapon. Next, in the 6 characters in the list today, is Wurzag, the Great Green Prophet. He rolled up the foot, the hand, fists. Here we go. His signature spell, of course, that he has automatically is Wurzag's Revenge. He has a bound spell, Vindictive Glare. So he's got 6 spells altogether. Of course, his magic item allows him to reroll miscast results, gives him +3 on the magic res. So he's very handy in the big horde of Savage Orcs there. I've got a Black Orc Big Boss, BSB with the Talisman of Preservation. A Goblin Big Boss on a Giant Wolf. He's being run with the Shrieking Blade and a Charmed Shield, so quite a cheap loadout for him. I've got a level 1 Night Goblin Shaman with a Dispel Scroll and a level 1 Savage Orc Shaman with a Lucky Shrunken Head. There are 46 Savage Orc Biggins with extra hand weapons, full command and big stabbers. There's 3 units, not 4 as in the picture, but just 3 units of 5 Goblin Wolf Riders, 3 Wolf Chariots, 2 Boar Chariots, and then 3 units of Savage Orc War Boys, 2 5 strong with a champion, and 1 7 strong with full command. And that really rounds out the list. I haven't got anything in the rare slot yet, simply because I haven't painted anything that falls into the rare slot. So there's a long way to go with this army. As you can see, it's mainly just a big block of Savage Orcs with all the characters in, so it's pretty much a Death Star build to this list. And then just lots of cavalry and chariots. And I'm keen to sort of try out this build for a while, where I've got this kind of slow hulking Death Star, which is sort of firing off magic here and there, and then just lots of fast units. And it doesn't have any war machines. It's got lots of boar boys and wolf boys and things like that. So it's quite a fluffy list altogether. But I'm hoping that the chariots can support the flanks of the horde and deter things like monsters from and cavalry from trying to flank the big unit, and the horde can sort of go after the points in the opponent's army bit by bit. I should mention also that the Night Goblin Shaman rolled up Itchy Nuisance, and the level 1 Savage Orc Shaman rolled up the Brain Burster. My opponent is Luke Blacksil, which means that all the models on the table are metal models from the 80s and 90s Citadel ranges. None of that plastic hammer here. And I think his army is all 80s and mine's a mixture of the 80s and 90s. He also has a very fluffy list today. I think it comes out as +10 on the comp system Triple Crown. He's got 4 Skull Crushers from left to right here, 4 Skull Crushers with a champion. There's 10 Warriors of Khorne, led by the general there, Sylar the Spawn. There's 5 Warhounds in a kind of dart formation. You've got 15 Chosen of Tzeentch with hand weapon and shield, so they've got a 3-up, 5-up, and they actually roll the +1 ward save on the gifts table to give them a 3-up, 4-up. You've got a War Shrine. Then you've got a small unit of 5 Chosen of Khorne. There's another unit of 5, what are they called? Forsaken. I forgot to mention the Chosen of Khorne rolled up the +1 toughness, so they're all toughness 5. Behind, there's a unit of 20 Marauders with a standard bearer. Hiding in there is the level 4 Chaos Sorcerer on metal. She rolled up Enchanted Blades, Glittering Robe, Transmutation of Lead, and Final Transmutation. And she also has Searing Doom, because she has 5 spells with the Chaos Familiar. There's a Chariot of Khorne there as well. And then in the corner, we've got a Chimera with the upgrades and 6 Chaos Ogres. No BSB in the list, which is no scroll and so on, which is also adding to the comp system there. So a nice sort of fluffy Chaos Warrior army there. None of the big nasties like the sort of Demon Prince or big block of Chaos Warriors or anything, but still obviously a very hard-hitting Chaos army. Not sure what I'm going to do about those Skull Crushers of Khorne. Those Ogres as well are going to be a little bit of a worry because they're quite fast and they're on the flank. And that Chimera might, if it manages to get behind my lines, just sort of have its way with the smaller units on the table, so I better watch out. We're playing the counter-thrust scenario from the London Legends GT, which means that we actually deploy 15 inches onto each side, but not within 20 inches of a deployed unit from the other side. And we select a natural terrain piece, not inside our deployment zone, not inside the enemy's deployment zone rather, to be their secondary objective. And so the wood nearest to me is the Chaos objective, and the hill on the top left-hand side, from my point of view, is the Orc objective. And the deployment goes fairly straightforward in the sense that we've both got 2 combat armies with very little to no shooting. And so my big Savage Orc block is positioned fairly central, ready to move towards that objective, slightly on the left-hand side. And the bulk of the Chaos army goes in the middle, facing the wood, to get that objective as well. So there's really going to be a sort of head-to-head clash in the middle of the table. So we're both looking forward to that. But on the right-hand side of the table then, those Ogres and those Chimera, both 2 sort of fast units, are overlapping on the Chaos side. And I just have a smattering of cavalry and chariots, just hoping to, those cavalry to sort of chaff up some of those units, and the chariots just to sort of protect that flank really, and to make sure that Chimera doesn't fly over the top. On Chaos turn 1, the battle line marches forward. There isn't any shooting. We go on to magic, and I'm quite successful in shutting down the phase by dispelling the War Shrine buff, and I end up using my scroll on the final transmutation. Not quite ready to lose a third of my Savage Orcs. So I forgot to mention, I didn't really do much vanguarding. apart from one of my units of Wolf Riders sort of moving up into the centre of the board. I managed to pass all my animosity checks on Orcs turn 1, and then immediately moved with 2 of the units of Wolf Riders to chaff up certain parts of the Chaos battle line. The Skull Crushers obviously being public enemy number 1. I actually moved back my unit of Orc Boar Boys on that left-hand side so that they're just sort of out of harm's way, because even though they are a close combat unit, there isn't really much they can go head-to-head with in a Warriors of Chaos army, so they'll just have to wait to a better opportunity to join the fray. The other Goblin Wolf Rider unit goes to chaff up the smaller units of Forsaken and Chosen in the centre there. I'm also retreating from this Chimera with almost everything. It's got a long leap with its fly, and so I want to make sure that wherever it lands, there's a danger of a chariot going into it. And I do that fairly successfully because I've got lots of chariots, so I can cover quite a wide area with those threat of charging. There's a lot of corn in the Chaos army, and so with no BSB, that typically means that something's going to fail its frenzy check at some point. And so what I'm trying to do is, bait things in a certain direction so I can, basically so I don't have to fight everything at once with my horde. Basically, the horde of Savage Orcs is the toughest thing on the table. And then after that is all of the Chaos units, and after that is all of my units. So I've got the number 1 unit on the table, and then Luke has the number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I've got the chaff. So basically, I can win fights with my horde, but I can't win fights with everything else. So I just need to maneuver well in the movement phase so I can pick the fights. In the magic phase, I try and get rid of those warhounds unsuccessfully because the Vindictive Glare spell is dispelled, and then I miscast with a 6 dice Foot of Gork. I stomp 5 to 6 Chosen of Tzeentch to death despite their 4-up ward save, and then Wurzag promptly loses 3 wizard levels despite his reroll on the miscast table, and he's only left with Fists of Gork. So I lose the foot and the hand, and here we go, which is a big blow at this early stage in the game. But there you go. I guess I've still got the fists, and at least he's still on his 3 wounds, so perhaps he'll be able to do something better in close combat. Chaos turn 2, and here come the charges. The Chimera scares off one of the chariots by failing its terror check, and then passes, miraculously, its leadership 5 check to redirect, and then goes into the small unit of Savage Orc Boar Boys towards the centre of the table. The Chosen charge off the Wolf Riders, who are chaffing them up, and then kill 4 out of 5 of them, and the last one flees towards my board edge. Skylar the Spawn and the Warriors fail their frenzy check, charge headfirst into those Wolf Riders, and that will actually obstruct the Skull Crushers. So working out quite good for me in that those Skull Crushers are going to have difficulty manoeuvring. They don't have a musician, so they're going to have to get out of the way of the other Khorne unit in front of them. In the magic phase, the Warriors get off the War Shrine buff. Thank God he doesn't roll a Demon Prince with this 3d6 roll. But the Tzeentch Chosen are buffed by another ward save again, so now they've got a 3-up ward champion, and the champion from the other Chosen unit gets +1 toughness again, so there's a toughness 6 champion in the other Chosen unit, so we've got some tough champions kicking around. I managed to dispel the final transmutation again with the dice this time. Thank God he hasn't got that off yet. And in the close combat phase, the Chimera does not manage to destroy all of those Savage Orc Boar Boys. He kind of fluffs the dice a bit, and I'm left there with 2 Boar Boys fighting bravely on, even though they've lost their frenzy, of course, against this big Chimera. And looking at the positioning of my chariots, that Chimera looks like it's going to get its comeuppance next time as we get some chariots careering into the flank. Orcs turn 2, so the only unit to fail the animosity is the Horde itself, which the Black Orc promptly quells by killing a Savage Orc. And the big Horde charges into the Hounds that are right in front of it, kill them, and then overrun towards the objective. Not so bad, that overrun, actually, because there isn't, while there are, of course, Chaos units all around me, There isn't a sort of big tough unit that's going to hit me in the flank straight away. The 2 war chariots charge off that chimera in the flank, and I roll a double 6 with the impact hit. It's just fantastic, just kill it outright straight away. So that was just a great result there, and we've got rid of that chimera. And chaffing up the ogres on the right hand side, backing up those boar boys again on the left hand side. My fleeing chariot rallies, hurrah! But the magic phase is a bit of a wash, as I think I tried to cast Itchy Nuisance and failed or something like that. So Chaos turn 3, and here come the next round of charges. So the ogres go into the chaff on the right hand side. The Chosen with the toughness 5 and the toughness 6 champion do a long bomb charge into my Orc boar chariot and make it. They win combat against the chariot and then reform into a line, which is just a pain in the butt to me, because I'm really going to have to deal now with this 5-strong unit of Chosen that prevents my chariots from joining the sort of main combat in the center. And that's, of course, what they're there for. The 4-up ward Chosen, the War Shrine, the Forsaken, and the Chariot all go into my horde in the center, as you can see in the picture. Re-maneuvering with those Khorne Warriors, Skylar the Spawn, and the Juggernauts on the left-hand side, maneuver so they can join them in combat in the middle. And that's the big threat, really, is those Khorne units on that side there, the Juggernauts and the General, which really will tip the balance unless I can find a way at winning this combat in the middle very quickly. And in the close combat phase, the Sorcerer bubbles up a big glittering robe, and that is the big one, of course, because at +2 armor save, that puts these Chosen. Now, I have killed a rank of them already with the foot, but they're now on a 1-up, 4-up, and the champion has a ridiculous 1-up, 3-up. I accept with my Black Orc BSB to the champion, who promptly puts him in a headlock. But of course, with the 1-up, 3-up, you can't really do any wounds on him yet, despite his great weapon and his, strength 7 or whatever. So that's a bit of a pillow fight. The Savages lose combat. Despite killing a handful of Chosen and Forsaken, there's too many attacks coming in, especially with the impact hits as well. And that means that my Savages are no longer frenzied. We're losing the attacks next round of combat. We're losing our Chopper special rule. And add insult to injury, we're going to have to start taking fear tests. So it's Orcs turn 3, and it's time for some counter charges. The Savage Orc Boar Boys and one of the Wolf Chariots charge those Ogres on the right-hand side. Won't win that combat in the long term, but let's see if we can do some damage. The second Chariot, Boar Chariot, and the remaining Boar Boys charge those Chosen in the center. One of my Wolf Chariots charges into the main combat in the flank of the Chaos Chariot. And then on the left-hand side, I've got that Goblin Hero coming up to chaff the General's unit. Oh, I forgot to mention, my Savage Orc Horde reformed at the end of last term. It was a bit of a cheeky maneuver on my part, because, of course, my BSB is in a challenge. And so I reformed in such a way so that my Savage Orcs went into a deeper formation, and my BSB is in the corner of that unit. So if those Juggernauts come in, which I'm guessing they will be facing that BSB in the challenge, so a lot of them might not be able to attack. So hopefully that can allow my horde to survive for a bit longer, combined, of course, with chaffing up the Skylar's unit. So hopefully that will keep me in the game for a bit. I've also got my Savage Orc Boar Boys on the left-hand side and another Wolf Chariot coming up on that side as well. So I do have some reinforcements coming up in the wings. In the magic phase, I get the Fists of Gork. They're up. Although you can see, still have the glittering robe up on the other side, so it's going to be a big fight in the middle. In the end, the Orcs win all 3 combats. So on the right-hand side, the Wolf Chariot takes out an Ogre, the Savage Orcs take out another Ogre. The Ogres swing back and do loads of damage, and it's left with sort of 3 Boar Boys fighting 4 Ogres, and they won't win the combat next time. But it's, good to sort of smash up that unit a little bit. In the middle, we crush that small unit of Chosen with the Chariots and the Boar Boys, but have a very dangerous overrun afterwards. And my 2 Boar Boys sort of roll a 6 and a 5 or something and sort of go just careering up to those Marauder unit at the back. And in the big combat, the Savages grind it out and win, and the War Shrine actually breaks. Everything else passes the break check, so we are stuck in the middle there against those Chosen, ready for those Juggernauts to come in. But the way it's positioned, by the width of that Chosen unit, it looks like those Juggernauts won't get to attack because they'll simply be facing the BSB. And luckily, the Chosen champion doesn't die in the challenge, so my BSB is still locked in that challenge, so my gamble has paid off. So it's Chaos turn 4, and Sylar the Spawn and his warriors fail their frenzy check yet again and go headlong into my Goblin hero on the wolf, and he actually miraculously survives combat. The Chaos unit is held up on that left-hand side yet again. The Marauders, Chaos Marauders in the middle with the Sorcerer in there, do a charge into the Boar Boys in front of them, beat them, and overrun into one of my chariots. So that overrun that I did there hasn't worked out well, because I've now got this quite tanky unit of Marauders sort of coming through into my chariots. The Juggernauts are in the main combat against my Savages, but they can't attack this round because of the BSB locked in the challenge. The Chaos failed to get off the Glittering Robe this round. They failed to cast it, and therefore the Savages gain the upper hand with all my characters and the Fist of Gork. The Chosen and the Juggernauts break, allowing the unit to sort of reform back into a horde formation and turn to face the flanking chariot and the remaining Forsaken. So that's really sort of a big swing for the Orcs there, not in terms of VPs, because, okay, I've managed to sort of decimate the lines of the Chaos there, but I haven't actually got the points for anything yet. The Ogres win on the right-hand side as well. So we'll have this unit of Ogres coming on the right-hand side. Those Marauders will probably win against that chariot. So I'm having trouble a bit on the right-hand side, but things starting to look good in the centre now. So it's Orcs turn 4, and the game is getting pretty tense now, sort of hanging in the balance here. The second chariot joins in the first, Boar chariot rather, with those Marauders in the middle. The Wolf chariot on the left-hand side and the Savage Orc Boar Boys charge Skylar and the Khorne warriors with that Goblin hero that are locked in combat there. The magic phase, I tried to cast Wurzag's Revenge, which is dispelled. I've still got the Fist of Gork up, however. The Boar Boys and the chariot win big. The warriors fluff their dice, basically. Skylar gets just 1 or 2 wounds on the Wolf chariot. The Goblin hero dies, but the Orcs win big. And the warriors and Skylar the Spawn are left on a leadership 5 break test with no reroll. And they pass it. Unbelievable. That would have been a huge swing to have the general break on that side and have my Boar Boys and chariot coming round onto that objective. But in the middle, the Savage Orcs managed to finish off the Forsaken and send that Chaos chariot packing. They tried to overrun into the next combat with the Marauders, but they roll a double run on that overrun, and so they just sort of shimmy forward a bit. Now, looks like they're a bit out of position there, obviously, with their back to the Skull Crushers, the Forsaken and Skylar, but obviously Skylar's still locked in combat. The Forsaken and the Juggernauts are still fleeing, so it's not too bad really. I've just got that War Shrine facing my flank, so it could be a lot worse. The chariot had very low impact hits, and the 2 Boar chariots end up losing combat, obviously because of the static combat res of those Marauders, but they hold because they're near the General and BSB now. So it's Chaos turn 5, and the War Shrine goes in to the flank of the Savages. The Ogres charge the flank of one of the Orc Boar chariots, kill one of the chariots and overrun into the next one, so it looks like the writing's on the wall there. In the magic phase, the Chaos Sorcerer tries to cast the Glittering Robe again, miscasts, drops a massive template on the Marauders and then goes down the hole. Just fantastic. Just kaboom. Skylar and the warriors end up finishing off the chariot there, killing a few Boar Boys who promptly flee off the board. So I've got the general's unit there still to deal with on the left-hand side. They then do a kind of funky reform in a line, so that the War Shrine is now in the general's leadership range, obviously attempting to pin my Savage Orc unit in place so that those Skull Crushers can finish them off. However, I am able to maneuver my characters to the north of the unit there. So I've got my Strength 7 Black Orc Big Boss with the Great Weapon. I've got my Strength 8 War Boss with the Great Weapon. And I've of course got Wurzag, who's also Strength 7 because he's got the Fists of Gork up. So my characters will make way to that side, do a bunch of wounds on that War Shrine, and it breaks again. And then the Savage Orc Horde does an about face to face the General's unit there. And of course it's Orcs' turn next, and they've got some unfinished business. Orcs' turn 5, so the Savages charge, and finally the Generals meet. The Fists of Gork are still up. And so the Savage Orcs really get a big round of combat in, kill all of the Chaos Warriors, but we don't manage to kill Skylar the Spawn. And of course, what that means is that Skylar now gains the Unbreakable special rule, because he has a kind of rule where once he joins a Khorne unit, he loses the Unbreakable special rule, but now that the Khorne unit's died, he's got it again. So we are stuck there. But hopefully we can, finish off Skylar in the next turn, because obviously we've still got turn 6 to play. The Ogres finish off the remaining chariot there and turn to face the objective along with those Marauders. So in turn 6, the Chaos will get onto that objective and get those all-important VPs. So it's Chaos turn 6, and those Skull Crushers that have been waiting for this moment all game finally get to charge. The Chaos also managed to dispel the Fists of Gork, and those Marauders march onto the objective. There's a vicious combat ensues with the Savage Orcs doing some wounds on the Skull Crushers and them doing lots of wounds back on the Savage Orcs, but it ends a stalemate there, and Skylar is still alive as well, so there's just one more round of combat for Orcs turn 6. Locked in combat with the Savage Orc War Boss, Skylar the Spawn still can't manage to do much damage. The Trickster's Helm coming in clutch as well and saving him from taking many wounds in this last couple of rounds of combat. Finally, Skylar dies in Orcs turn 6, and the Skull Crushers break. They really fluffed their dice a little bit. It didn't seem like they had a horrendous round of combat, but just the Savage Orcs rolled well, just got a few more wounds off. And of course took some damage off Skylar the Spawn. They break, and the Savage Orcs pursue further onto the Orc objective. And so at the end of the game, the Chaos are on their objective and the Orcs are on our objectives, and we go to tot up some VPs. So after totting up the points, it was a narrow victory for the Orcs and Goblins, something like a 13-7 on the 20-0 system. All of my points really are in that one big unit, and with a Death Star build, you've got two strategies really to try and defeat it. You can kill everything else and try and keep your victory points, or you can throw everything at that big unit and try and crack it. And of course, it depends what you're going for. On a 20-0 game, perhaps you can try and crack that big unit. The Savage Orcs aren't the best Death Star in the world. They've got weaknesses, they're slow, they can lose their frenzy and then lose their attacks. So they're not the best unit there, and perhaps Luke just wanted to go for it and try and crack that big unit. The characters are quite handy in there, but they can also die as well, depending if you've got things that can kill those characters. There were some big moments in this game. I'm thinking about those chariots going into the Chimera and getting that big impact hits and killing it on turn 2. I'm thinking about the Skylar, the Spawn, and the Warriors passing that Leadership 5 break test at a crucial time in the game. That was big. And of course the Wizards, the Chaos Sorcerer going down the hole, and Wurzag miscasting on turn 1 and losing that Here We Go spell. And that Here We Go spell is just such a great spell if you can get it off at the right time. And so, yeah, lots of big moments, lots of swings, and quite a close game. And it's those games that are the most enjoyable, especially when you've got a bunch of 80s Citadel models that you're playing with that are well painted in some good company. So fantastic game, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you've followed this far, of course, give me a like. That really helps. Thanks, guys. Leave us a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Cheers. Speak to you all soon. Goodbye.